Awesome. Thank you, everyone. My name is Anomaly. I'm a senior developer experience engineer at Qdrant, and today I want to talk to you about edge-to-cloud video anomaly detection. So what does that mean? Most video anomaly detection systems are based on training classification models. So you might have trained one model to detect things like a forklift accident. You train another model to detect pallets that are spilled over. You train another model to detect intrusions from human beings. We wanted to see if you could flip that idea on its head and turn video surveillance into a vector search problem. Vector search is really good at finding similar items. So we asked ourselves, if we just took clips of video from different camera sites and we established a baseline, then we took incoming clips and we said, how different or similar is this from the baseline? Could we build an effective anomaly detection system? And the answer to that is yes. We benchmarked this on the UCF crime data set, and we were able to get really good results without having to train an anomaly detection model specifically on all of the anomaly cases. So I showed you a little bit of the demo there to start, but let's get into the slides and kind of see how this works behind the scenes first. So Vultr is GPUs. Qdrant is vector search. How did they come together? Qdrant just released Qdrant Edge, which allows you to now run Qdrant on device. So you can now have a system where you're doing anomaly detection on the actual camera. The problem with that is it's not powerful enough to do effective anomaly detection. It's good if you cast a wide net and you say, we're going to catch anything that looks like an anomaly, but it's not very good at confirming whether or not what it caught was an anomaly or a false positive. We don't particularly care because when you're talking about anomaly detection, if it wasn't an anomaly, who cares? We had to send it to the cloud and score it. But if it was an anomaly and we missed it, that's a disaster. That could be an incident, that could be a security issue, etc. So what we found by talking with our customers is that right now the surveillance market has a problem where we're able to install the cameras at the site, but that comes with two problems. First, operators have way too much footage to review efficiently, so they're missing things. And second, it's really expensive to be sending all of your camera footage 24/7 to the cloud to have it analyzed by a large language model. So that's where Sentinel comes in, right? We have this idea of what if we use an NVIDIA Jetson on the camera, we're going to do anomaly detection on device, then based on the anomaly detection we do on device, we use Vultr GPUs to do a cloud analysis, and then we confirm or deny whether what we found on device was actually an anomaly. This way we have a really flexible anomaly detection system where all we need is a camera baseline where there weren't anomalies. We compare it to incoming footage to see, is it different or is it the same? And we were able to get 94% recall and only send 10% of your bandwidth. So if the camera's on 24 hours a day, you're only sending about 2.5 hours of footage to be graded by the cloud. So quick walkthrough, I'll talk about why video's hard, talk about the product, talk about some core insights, some data, and then we'll actually look at a demo. So the big shift that we're seeing right now with AI in video is instead of saying what's happening right now in this video, you can just ask how similar or dissimilar is this video from previous video that we have. In that way, you don't need the LLM to even analyze what's happening in the video. You're just analyzing how different is this from the behavior that we've seen in the past. So let's say we have a camera up here. We're going to have it coming down. We know that there should be maybe about 5 people sitting here. There's some couches here, etc. If in an hour someone comes in and removes a couch, that's going to trigger our anomaly detection system. We're then going to send that clip over to the LLM. The LLM is going to be like, oh yeah, someone moved the couch. That's a real anomaly. They probably shouldn't be moving the couch. Now let's say a 7th person enters the frame. That's also an anomaly because things have changed. Our system will tag that on device. We send it to the LLM. The LLM is going to say, this isn't actually an anomaly. Another person just joined the frame. So in that way, we're first detecting, is it different? And then we detect, okay, is this difference a real anomaly that needs a human to then intervene? I'm going to get a little technical and nerdy here for a second and talk about the architecture. So I'm actually going to start with Vultr. Vultr is what's going to power the GPU and cloud analysis. So like I mentioned, this is the end part of the process. But where we actually start is on our NVIDIA Jetson. So this is going to be running on your camera, and it's going to be doing that anomaly detection on device. We're also running Qdrant Edge on device. So this is going to be everything that's happening on device. Once we've identified a potential anomaly, we escalate it to the cloud. That's where 12 Labs comes in. That's our video intelligence. Qdrant Cloud. Once again, we're using Qdrant, but just on the cloud now. And like I mentioned, this is powered by Vultr GPUs, so we can get that analysis ASAP. Because if it's, let's say, a fire or arson, you don't want to delay between the analysis and alerting a human that there's actually an anomaly. So on device, really fast, not as accurate, but it doesn't matter because we're just asking it to find any potential anomaly. In the cloud, it's a slower, but it's much more accurate. So that's kind of the trade-offs that we're making in the architecture. In terms of results, we ran this on the UCF crime dataset, which is an open source dataset of Anomaly for video, where you have different crime categories, arson, robbery, fighting, etc. And we got almost 0.97 on our AUC ROC, and we didn't have to use any anomaly labels in training. That's really the big part that I want everyone to take away here. We just gave it the baseline of each video, and it was able to detect all of these anomalies. So that's the system basically using similarity or dissimilarity to find the anomalies without us having to say, hey, look at this video and tell me if there's an arson happening.
Where do you run the baseline? That's in the Jetson?
Say that again?
Where do you run the baseline?
On the Jetson, yeah, on the device.
So Jetson identifies that and gave you that results?
Exactly. So on the Jetson, there's actually something called NVIDIA Metropolis that we're running that's going to be doing our anomaly detection on device. So it's called VSS Metropolis, and NVIDIA basically has a framework for you to on device do anomaly detection at the frame level. But it's not very effective because you're just looking at frames, right? But it's enough to catch, is there a difference in this? And then we send that to the cloud for the full analysis.
Is there a difference in the context of crime data set?
No, so that's the beauty of it, is it's flexible. We can apply this to any kind of video. As long as you have a baseline, this system will work. We use crime because it's really hard to find open source anomaly detection data sets. They're really all around crime. But if this was a warehouse data set, the same thing would apply. If this was a traffic data set, same thing would apply. Yeah. Okay, so this is the edge to cloud architecture. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but basically, this is the way that we keep the information on the device synced to the information on the cloud, because we don't want the device to have all of the footage. We just need it to keep enough footage to have a good baseline. Now the search, right? So this is like, you might be wondering, okay, where does vector search come into this process? What you can do with vector search is you can turn information into numbers. So here, for example, we have text, we have image, we have video, we have audio. Today, we're talking specifically about video, which actually has all of those things in it, because video has images, video has audio, and video has a transcript. So you can consider that text. We're going to turn all of that into embeddings, send it over to Qdrant. Once we've embedded the clips, which we're using, I believe it's 10-second clips, we're then going to compare that to the baseline 10-second clip. And we're going to say, hey, is this similar or is this dissimilar? So the same way when you go on your favorite shopping site and you say, find me khaki shorts for night at the beach, and it knows how to find it, we're doing the same thing, but the query is our baseline video. And then we're looking at the results and we're saying, hey, are these results similar or dissimilar from the baseline? So we're taking advantage of the same thing that we use in e-commerce search, but we're just applying it now to anomaly detection.
What embedding model you use?
So we're using Marengo 3.0 from 12 Labs, but you can use any embedding model that works with video.
But because it has different sources, right? Like one is frame, one is
That's
audio.
what Marengo is going to take care of for you, is they figured out how to do the audio, video, the temporal fact, all for you. So you can just use them, but there's also other models you can use. There's Video May, there's other proprietary models you can use. But I like 12 Labs Marengo because you can then do Q&A with your video. So you can say, for example, hey, what's happening in this clip?
So is that embedding model is running on 12 Labs?
Yes.
So you use their APIs?
Exactly, yeah. So that's what's running in the cloud. Yeah. Awesome. And then some vector search basics, just so you understand what we're talking about here. This is a two-dimensional vector. Everyone's pretty familiar with the Cartesian plane, right? You have X, you have Y. We can imagine this being, let's say I wanted to know your age and your blood pressure. And it's like, okay, as age goes up, blood pressure goes up, right? Pretty easy to do. We can also introduce a third dimension. So now maybe I'm also tracking your age, blood pressure, and height, and how those three interact. You can imagine as I keep adding dimensions, I can now start to get really specific about what each person is, right? The way that vector search works is we have thousands of dimensions. Humans can't really visualize in our heads once we get past 3 dimensions, but this is our attempt of visualizing thousands of dimensions on a plane. So when you do a query, what we're doing with the video is we're going to have thousands of dimensions for that 10-second clip. So one dimension might be color. One dimension might be how many people are in it. One dimension might be what time of day is it. All of these, the AI basically is going to create these different dimensions to be able to differentiate the clips between each other. Here we're using video clips, but you can imagine this being chunks of text. You can imagine it being images from your catalog. You can imagine it being your personal meeting notes. Anything that you want to be able to search, we turn it into vectors, and that's how you can search it. Because then when you do your query, we turn that query into vectors, and we compare which vectors are similar. So this is just a great example of how it works. This sentence is this is an embedding, this sentence is this is another embedding. Their embeddings are going to be pretty similar, right? The only difference is going to be on another, because they're similar sentences. I'll skip over that. We don't really need that. We don't really need that either. Data structure, I don't think we need either. But this is pretty important. So part of what makes this able to work is some of the features that we're taking advantage of in Qdrant, specifically this filtering. Because being able to filter what time of the day or what location the camera is recording from allows us to make queries like, in the library, has there been behavior similar to this incident in the past? In the library, have we seen this individual in the past? Across the campus, what's happening in the past hour? Between 3 and 4 p.m., what's happening at camera site 17? So you can get super specific with the queries, and you can compare just the sites that you care about, right? So now the demo, which I'll show you shortly, is I'll just pull it up here. Sorry. The demo is a console that a real surveillance operator might be managing, right? So what we have here is we have live camera feeds. This is from another open source data set, the Shanghai data set. And you've got your live camera feeds here. So you can imagine the operator would just hang out on this screen. On the right, you have your campus alerts. So we have these anomalies flagged with a score as well as where they are happening. So if I were to click on one, it's now going to actually bring up the clip. It says, short description, this scene begins with 2 individuals walking towards each other. They suddenly start engaging in a fight. And I didn't actually look at the clip, but I trust that they were actually fighting. So this would be a triage station basically for the operator. On this, they can also check out specific feeds, which are going to have the zone, swap to certain camera feeds, be like, hey, what's going on there, etc. We also have this incidents page. So the incidents page is going to be for more text-based analysis. On the left, you have your triage queue, which is going to be powered by those filters that I mentioned. So you can filter by zone, scene, status, anomaly type, etc. And then here you have your actual incident details. So if I click on it, I'm going to get a little clip showing me what's happening. I can chat with the clip. So if I say, what's happening in this scene? Oh, looks like my internet might not be connected, but I would have gotten a Q&A. And then I can also see similar clips. So I have this interface where I can see what are clips that are similar to this, and then I can dismiss, I can investigate, or I can escalate the clip as well. We also have the search page, which is just going to allow you to do semantic search over your clips. So same thing as if you were searching on any website. You type in your query, you get clips, you can watch that clip. And then we also have a chat function similar to search, but this is just more of a chat interface for people who prefer that. Describe the most severe incidents, boom, you get your answer with the clips in there. Then there's my favorite page, which is the intelligence page. So what we have here is all of the clips, we've embedded them in vector space, and you can actually look at the clips in vector space. So, let me get through my tutorial here. You see here there's some kind of fight going on, and I can turn the anomalies off or on, and you can see that our clips are going to show us literally where in vector space this anomaly lives. So we can literally click around and compare, hey, what's going on here, what's going on there, what's going on up here, etc. And this lets us literally explore what the difference is between our clips. So how does this all work? We have our cameras that are running NVIDIA VSS, Jetson, on device. They're doing anomaly detection. But on device is going to be really weak. We can't run Opus 4.6 on device, right? So on device is going to be a smaller model that's really fast. It doesn't need to be perfect. All it needs to do is catch any potential anomaly. Then we take those potential anomalies, we send it to the cloud powered by Vultr so we can get that analysis ASAP. We confirm, deny, or send to a human for further investigation. And with this system, we're able to only have to send 10% of our bandwidth. What does that mean? If I have a camera recording all day, I only need to send about 2.5 hours as opposed to 24 hours. Multiply that by all the cameras at your site, saving a lot of money. You're still getting a really good recall rate, and you're only getting about 2 false positives per hour, which is just literally 1 call to a cloud API. Doesn't cost you anything at the end of the day. You still capture all the potential anomalies. So that is the Edge to Cloud video anomaly demo that I wanted to show everyone. If you're interested in learning more about Qdrant, check this out. If you want to learn more about Terry Damiba, check me out on X. I can pull that out, x.com/ptdamiba. And thank you very much for having me, Vultr. The big takeaway from this presentation that I want everyone to have is whatever systems you're currently building, start asking yourself, like, is there a way for me to architecture this in a cheaper way, still get the performance that I want, but save a bunch of money? Because the answer is probably yes with a lot of these new AI tools that are coming out. Sure, you might be sacrificing a little somewhere, but depending on your use case, it probably isn't going to be worth the drop-off, right? So if you're running this in a factory and you need to notice whenever a robot messes up, you can run the system. If you're running it at a school and you really need to know if there's an incident, you can run the system as well. You just set your threshold higher or lower depending on your use case, right? So this is a really flexible system, but this is just video surveillance. You can think about this for any kind of AI application where you traditionally would send it to a machine learning model or a large language model on the cloud. Start doing it on device. My name is Terry Damiba from Qdrant. Thank you very much.
Let's give a big hand for Qdrant here. Fantastic.